Introduction: the largest moon's deepest secret. Ganymede is a world of superlatives. The largest moon in our solar system, bigger than Mercury, the only moon with its own magnetic field, and beneath its icy crust lies an ocean containing more water than all of Earth's oceans combined. But in 2024, when NASA's Juno spacecraft made its closest approach to Ganymede in 20 years, it detected something that shouldn't exist: perfectly geometric magnetic anomalies, arranged in a grid pattern, originating from deep within the subsurface ocean. These weren't natural formations, they were structures, massive ones, and they were generating energy. For 2 years, NASA kept the discovery classified while they verified the data. The conclusion was inescapable. Something had built towers in Ganymede's ocean, towers that reached from the ocean floor to nearly the ice ceiling, a height of almost 100 kilometers. Towers that were somehow alive. Today I'll share 2 stories. First, the real NASA data about Ganymede's hidden ocean and the impossible discoveries within. Second, the account of Dr. Marie Dubois and her team's expedition in 2156, when they became the first humans to witness the towers and understand their terrible purpose. Part 1. NASA data: Ganymede's impossible ocean. The ocean's discovery. Galileo mission, 1995-2003. That fluid was a salty ocean. Ocean specifications: depth 100 kilometers, 10 times deeper than Earth's Mariana Trench. Volume 5.3 billion cubic kilometers, 35 times Earth's ocean volume. Temperature -3 C to +4 Ts. Kept liquid by salt and pressure. Pressure at ocean floor 1300 bar. Salinity 10 times Earth's oceans, mostly magnesium sulfate. The Magnetic Mystery on Hubble Space Telescope observations, 2015. By watching Ganymede's auroras, Hubble confirmed the ocean's existence and revealed something strange. Aurora oscillations were dampened by exactly 2 degrees. This matched models for a 100 kilometers deep ocean, but there were regular hiccups in the pattern. These hiccups occurred every 7.15 days. Ganymede's orbital period. Juno's discovery, 2024. During its 34th orbit of Jupiter, Juno passed within 1,038 kilometers of Ganymede, detected 107 distinct magnetic anomalies, arranged in a perfect hexagonal grid, each anomaly approximately 10 kilometers wide, spacing exactly 50 kilometers apart. Depth source: 80 to 90 kilometers below surface in the ocean. Energy output: 100 megawatts per anomaly. The impossible structures. Characteristics of the anomalies: too regular. Natural formations don't create perfect hexagonal grids. Too powerful. Each anomaly generated more energy than a nuclear reactor. Too stable. Unchanged between Voyager 1979 and Juno 2024 observations. Too deep. Located precisely at the ocean's most pressurized zone. NASA's internal assessment. Classified until 2026. The anomalies are consistent with massive vertical structures extending through Ganymede's ocean. Their regular spacing and energy output suggest artificial origin. Recommend immediate further investigation. Dr. Marie Dubois floated before the briefing screen, studying the latest scans of Ganymede's interior. At 41, she was Earth's leading expert on extremophile ecosystems, with discoveries in Earth's deep ocean trenches and Europa's ice caves. But Ganymede was different. The towers had been growing. In the 30 years since their discovery, the structures had increased in both number and energy output. What started as 147 anomalies was now over 500. They were spreading in a clear pattern, following the moon's tectonic fault lines. Her team consisted of 4 specialists: Dr. James Park, xenobiologist; Captain Lisa Anderson, military escort and pilot; Dr. Yuki Tanaka, energy systems engineer; Dr. Omar Hassan, AI and translation specialist. Their vessel, the Cousteau 5, was designed for extreme pressure environments. Graphene diamond hull, capable of withstanding 2,000 bar. Fusion reactor, providing unlimited power. Quantum radar, able to penetrate kilometers of ice. Emergency evacuation pods, rated for explosive decompression. Descent through ice. August 20,056. Ganymede's surface. Osiris crater. The ice drill had taken 3 weeks to penetrate the 15-kilometer ice shell. As Cousteau 5 descended through the narrow tunnel, temperature readings climbed from -180 bar at the surface to -5 bar at the ice ocean boundary. Breaking through into the ocean was like entering another world. Their lights penetrated only 50 meters into the murky water, heavy with magnesium salts, but the sonar revealed everything. A vast underwater landscape of mountains, valleys, and impossibly tall structures. First tower bearing 030, distance 5 kilometers. Captain Anderson reported, height, Jesus, it's 89 kilometers tall. That's impossible. But the impossible was right there on their screens, a structure wider than Manhattan at its base, tapering as it rose through the ocean like a colossal needle, and it was glowing. First contact with the towers. As they approached, the glow resolved into patterns. Bioluminescent channels ran up the tower's surface in spiraling helixes, pulsing with blue-green light every 7.3 seconds, matching Ganymede's tidal flexing from Jupiter's gravity. It's organic, Dr. Park whispered, studying the readings. The entire structure, it's one massive organism. The tower's surface wasn't solid, but consisted of billions of polyp-like organisms, each the size of a human fist, working in perfect synchronization. They filtered water, extracted minerals, and somehow converted tidal energy into that eerie bioluminescence. Dr. Tanaka's instruments went wild. Energy output is off the charts. This single tower is generating 500 megawatts just from tidal flexing. It's a living power plant. Inside the tower, a natural opening appeared at the tower's 10-kilometer mark, a sphincter-like portal that dilated as they approached. Inside was a hollow chamber filled with air, not water. Somehow, the organism maintained an atmosphere. The chamber was vast, 500 meters across, walls lined with what looked like neurons the size of tree trunks. Electrical impulses visibly traveled along them, creating patterns of light that seemed almost like thoughts. In the center floated something that defied explanation, a sphere of liquid water, 50 meters across, suspended without any visible support. Inside the sphere, things moved, creatures unlike anything on Earth, translucent, radial symmetry, hundreds of tentacles, each one ending in what appeared to be sensory organs. "They're watching us," Dr. Hassan said, his voice barely a whisper. One of the creatures approached the sphere's edge. Where it touched, the water didn't break. It formed a bubble that extended toward Cousteau 5. The bubble touched their hull, and suddenly, their instruments detected a signal. Not radio, not sonar, but modulated magnetic fields, the same type the towers generated. The communication, Dr. Hassan's AI translation matrix worked frantically to decode the patterns. After an hour, broken concepts emerged. We, grew, wait, harvest, soon. The creatures showed them images. Not on screens, but directly in the magnetic field patterns. Their brains could somehow interpret. They saw Ganymede millions of years ago, empty ocean, then spores arriving on an asteroid. The towers beginning as small polyps, growing over millennia, following a plan encoded in their DNA. They saw the tower's purpose, collecting energy from Jupiter's massive tidal forces, storing it in biological batteries, preparing for something. The creatures were the tower's nervous system, their consciousness, directing growth and development. But preparing for what? The answer came in a flood of images. The towers releasing spores, billions of them, accelerating to escape velocity using stored energy. The spores traveling between stars, finding other worlds with tidal forces, beginning the cycle again. Ganymede was a nursery, and harvest time was approaching. The revelation. When? Marie asked, though she wasn't sure how the translation system would convey it. The response was precise. 11.3 Earth years. The alignment of Jupiter, Ganymede, and the Sun that occurred once every 897 years. The tidal forces would peak, providing maximum energy for launch. But there was more. The creatures showed them other worlds. Dozens of moons around gas giants, where identical towers grew. This wasn't unique to Ganymede. It was a galactic reproductive cycle, using tidal forces of giant planets to spread life between stars. They showed Earth too. In their vast genetic memory, encoded in the tower's DNA, was a record of visiting Earth's oceans 400 million years ago. Some spores had landed, adapted, evolved. Earth's coral reefs, the creatures suggested, were distant cousins of the towers. The choice. The creatures presented humanity with a choice. The tower's launch would affect Ganymede's orbit, potentially destabilizing other moons in Jupiter's system. Europa's orbit would shift, its ocean cooling. Io would move closer to Jupiter, its volcanic activity increasing. The changes would take centuries, but would be inevitable. Or humanity could help, provide technology to launch the spores without orbital disruption. In exchange, the towers would share their biological technology, unlimited clean energy from tidal forces, organic structures that could grow in any ocean, biological computers more powerful than anything humanity had developed. Marie faced an impossible decision. These beings had been growing for millions of years, following a biological imperative older than complex life on Earth. Did humanity have the right to interfere, or the responsibility to protect Jupiter's moons? The discovery. While Marie deliberated, Dr. Park made a shocking discovery, analyzing the tower organism's DNA equivalent. He found something familiar. The basic structure, though alien, had similarities to Earth life, not convergent evolution, actual relationship. Marie, these things, they've been here before. Earth life and these towers share a common ancestor. We're related, distantly, but related. The implication was staggering. Life on Earth might have started from these same spores billions of years ago. The towers weren't aliens, they were family, following a reproductive strategy that predated planets themselves. The decision. After hours of debate, Marie made the choice. Humanity would help, not just because of the technology offered, but because these beings had as much right to reproduce as any Earth organism. They were part of the same tree of life, just a branch that had taken a very different path. The agreement was sealed with an exchange. The towers provided a small organism, a polyp that could grow in Earth's oceans, converting tidal energy to usable power. Humanity would provide launching assistance when the time came, using fusion rockets to give the spores the extra velocity needed without gravitational disruption. Part 3. Consequences and Revelations. Return to Earth. When Cousteau 5 returned to Jupiter Station with their findings, the reaction was explosive. Religious leaders debated the theological implications of life that predated Earth. Scientists marveled at biological technology, millions of years more advanced than anything human. Military advisors worried about the security implications of 500 massive organisms with unknown capabilities. But the small polyp Dr. Dubois brought back changed everything. Within a month, it had grown in a test tank to the size of a house, generating enough power to run the entire research station. It was clean, silent, and self-repairing. The implications for Earth's energy crisis were immediate. The spread. By 557, controlled tower polyps were growing in Earth's oceans. The Mariana Trench hosted the first, using the pressure and Earth's tidal forces to generate power for half of Asia. The Atlantic Ridge system powered Europe and Africa. But they grew differently on Earth. Smaller, adapted to Earth's weaker tides, but also more diverse. They began developing new capabilities: water purification, mineral extraction, even carbon sequestration. They were evolving, adapting to their new home. The preparation. As 2067 approached, the harvest year, humanity prepared for the launch. Space elevators were constructed on Ganymede to assist the spore launch. Collection vessels were positioned to gather samples for study. The entire scientific community mobilized to witness and assist in the largest reproductive event ever observed. The towers had grown even more massive. Some now reached 120 kilometers high, their tips actually breaching through thin spots in Ganymede's ice shell. The energy they had stored over millions of years was equivalent to thousands of nuclear bombs, all to be released in a controlled burst that would send their offspring to the stars. The launch. On September 23, 267, the alignment was perfect. Jupiter, Ganymede, and the Sun formed a straight line. Tidal forces peaked. The towers began to glow brighter than ever before. Then, in perfect synchronization, they released billions of spores, each the size of a grain of rice, but containing the entire genetic blueprint of the towers. Erupted from Ganymede's surface. They used the stored energy to achieve escape velocity, then used Jupiter's gravity as a slingshot to reach interstellar speeds. Human vessels helped guide the streams, adding thrust where needed, ensuring the launch wouldn't affect other moons' orbits. The process took 72 hours. When it was done, the towers had shrunk to a third of their original size, exhausted but alive, already beginning to regenerate for the next cycle in 97 years. The diaspora. Long-range telescopes tracked the spore clouds as they left the solar system. They separated into dozens of streams, each heading for different stars. Some toward red dwarfs with detected exoplanets, others toward systems still being born in stellar nurseries. The journey would take millions of years. Most spores would die in the void, but some would find new worlds with moons and tides. They would take root, grow, and eventually launch their own spores. Life would spread, slow but unstoppable, through the galaxy. Earth's evolution. The partnership with the towers transformed human civilization. Unlimited clean energy ended the climate crisis. Biological architecture grew cities from modified tower organisms. Space stations used tower technology to become self-sustaining ecosystems. But more importantly, humanity's perspective changed. We were not alone, had never been alone. Life was a force that transcended worlds, spreading through space in ways we'd never imagined. The towers showed that life could be patient, taking millions of years to reproduce, using the universe's own forces to spread. Dr. Marie Dubois, now director of the Ganymede Research Station, often stood in the observation deck, watching the towers slowly regenerate. They would be ready again in 897 years. By then, humanity would likely be among the stars themselves, perhaps encountering tower colonies on distant moons, children of Ganymede's ancient organisms. 100 years later, 2256. Professor Alexandre Dubois-Chen, great-granddaughter of Marie Dubois, floated in the observation bubble of New Ganymede's station. The towers below had fully regenerated, even larger than before, but now they were integrated with human technology, hybrid structures that served both species. Humanity had spread through the solar system. Aided by tower technology, Mars had been given its own tower seeds, creating an ocean where none had existed. Titan's methane seas hosted adapted towers that thrived in hydrocarbon. Even Venus's upper atmosphere had aerial versions, floating in the clouds. The first reports were coming back from the Alpha Centauri colony. They had found moons with tidal forces, perfect for tower cultivation. The spores sent in 2007 wouldn't arrive for millions of years, but humanity would have towers waiting when they did. Professor, her assistant announced, we're receiving a transmission from the Tau Ceti expedition. The message took 12 years to arrive at light speed. When decoded, it showed images that made Alexandra gasp. Tau Ceti E, a super-Earth with 3 moons, already had towers, ancient ones, possibly billions of years old, reaching not 100 but 500 kilometers high. They were not alone. The towers were everywhere, patient gardeners of life, using gravity and time to ensure life would never be extinguished. Each system they reached revealed the same truth. Life was not rare, but inevitable, spreading through the cosmos in waves of spores and seeds. Alexandra turned to her team. Prepare the deep space transmitter. It's time to send a message to all tower colonies we can reach. Let them know Earth's children are coming, and we understand the cycle now. She looked back at Ganymede's towers, pulsing with their ancient rhythm. They had waited millions of years to reproduce. Humanity had helped them after knowing them for less than a century. Together, they would ensure life filled every corner of the galaxy, where tides pulled and moons danced around their parent worlds. The secret of Ganymede's ocean wasn't just the towers. It was the revelation that life operates on timescales humans could barely comprehend, using forces we'd only begun to understand. The towers were teachers, showing humanity that patience and cooperation could achieve what violence and haste never could, the permanent establishment of life throughout the universe. In Ganymede's dark ocean, 100 kilometers down, new towers were already beginning to grow. The cycle continued, eternal and patient, spreading life one moon at a time.